My friends, we've got to draw the line somewhere. And I'm going to draw it right here, right now. Welcome to Monday. It's Riell Truth. I am Howard Riell. My friends, I have no idea how you survived from last Thursday until today, but you made it. Congratulations. Let's do something worthwhile. Item from Breitbart. LGBT advocacy organization GLAAD issued a statement Monday, that's today, sharply criticizing actor Kevin Spacey's decision to come out as gay amid allegations that he sexually molested a young actor at a party in the 1980s. In a statement issued late Sunday night, Spacey said he had no recollection of an incident alleged by actor Anthony Rapp to have taken place in 1986, in which Rapp, then 14 years old, accused Spacey of carrying him to a bed and laying on top of him following a party at his New York City apartment. In the statement, Spacey offered his, quote, sincerest apology to Rapp for the alleged incident, but said he could not recall it. The House of Cards star also revealed he had had romantic relationships with both men and women in his life, but was now choosing to, quote, live as a gay man. However, GLAAD, along with some celebrities, blasted Spacey for appearing to deflect from the allegations made by Rapp by revealing his sexuality. Quote, coming out stories should not be used to deflect from allegations of sexual assault, unquote, said Sarah Kate Ellis, president and CEO of GLAAD. This is not a coming out story about Kevin Spacey, but a story of survivorship by Anthony Rapp and those who bravely speak out against unwanted sexual advances. The media and public should not gloss over that. Actor Billy Eichner, who's gay, also criticized Spacey's statement, saying the timing of his coming out was inappropriate, unquote. My friends, let's draw the line. We all know there are accusations that gay people are deviants, that they're mentally unstable, or that anyone, any gay man ever, would ever be interested in having sex with underage children. Absolutely preposterous. Have you ever heard of a story of that happening, ever? Don't take my word for it. There's an organization out there you can contact. They'll tell you the same thing. It's called NAMBLA, North American Man-Boy Love Association. Would people who are unbalanced find true love, okay, in the stalls of public toilets, but they find true love anyway? Next thing you're going to tell me is that gay people overwhelmingly vote for Hillary Clinton. Come on, guys. Let's give gay people a break. Just because Kevin Spacey is gay and he lay on top of a 14-year-old boy, does that mean that other people who practice a gay lifestyle are also degenerates? Is that what you think it means? We'll be right back.
United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Piccolo's restaurant in Denver reminds us that over 750,000 children were reported missing last year. Over 58,000 of these were abducted by non-family members. Keep an eye out for youngsters at play, and if you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. This message from Piccolo's restaurant in Denver is not only the best Italian and Mexican cuisine, it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166. Piccolo. Chaplain Collins LLC salutes our emergency first responders for their professionalism, commitment, and bravery. They're willing to put their lives on the line for us with little or no thanks. So let's all take the time to thank our first responders for all they do for us. Also thanking our veterans for the sacrifice they made for our freedom. This message is from Chaplain Collins LLC, the two locations in Denver and Fort Collins, serving the community for over 13 years. Visit them online at chaplaincollins.com.
All right, guys, let's start this week off right. Because you know what tonight is? Of course you know what tonight is. Tonight is the debut of Laura Ingraham, the Ingraham Angle on Fox News. I guarantee you Laura's going to be tremendous in that lineup. They have Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham. They're going to get a hell of a lot of truth out there. And America is badly in need of as much truth as it can get. Here's Laura Ingraham earlier today on her radio show. Go.
Have no idea what they're saying.
A Mueller spokesman is saying Manafort and Gates will each face 12 charges, including conspiracy against the United States. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that these are tax fraud-related indictments, part of it anyway. But that's all we know right now. This is breaking.
The Democrats have put all their marbles on the Bob Mueller team. The Democrats have, from the very beginning, a year ago, when Donald Trump was elected, believed that they could undo the results of the election. Their goal, from the moment that Trump hit the magic electoral number, their goal was to remove Donald Trump from office. The appointment of the special prosecutor, which never should have been done, and a regular prosecutor could have figured this out. You don't need a special prosecutor to figure out tax fraud. I mean, tax fraud, they prosecute tax fraud all the time in the United States. Mail fraud, tax fraud, conspiracy to divert money from U.S. coffers. This is run-of-the-mill stuff that any good federal prosecutor with some researchers and other assistant prosecutors could discover. You don't need a special prosecutor for this. And they have the temerity to argue. And until we see otherwise, we're going to describe it this way. They have the temerity to argue that this is somehow evidence of a potential or actual collusion with Russia, because Paul Manafort, who has been a political consultant for 35 years, engaged in financial transactions that predated his time as campaign manager. And I guess use that to tie that to Donald Trump.
In the indictment, it contends that $75 million flowed through offshore accounts tied to Manafort. He is being charged with conspiracy against the U.S., money laundering, and other charges.
Typical. This is open now. Yeah, these are the typical federal charges in a case like this where these types of facts are involved. So you have a situation where Bob Mueller he's populated his office with 15 lawyers. They have unlimited budget, and what they've come up with is Paul Manafort was running money through an outside account that was really his account, and that money should have been counted toward his income tax gross income, and it wasn't.
The key for the most substantive indictment would be any indictment that has a clear path to the Trump campaign or Trump himself, as opposed to collateral violations. Manafort is viewed as something of a target-rich environment. There's a lot of transactions there unrelated to the campaign that he might be subject to investigation or even charge.
Money laundering that took place before Paul Manafort was the chairman of the Trump campaign. That is the allegation. Now, we'll see when we get is the actual indictment been handed down? It just was handed down.
Was released.
Okay, so it's just been handed down. When it's printed out for me, I'll be able to actually go through it as a lawyer, but I can't do it when it's not in front of me.
12-count indictment, conspiracy against U.S. and to launder money, FARA violations, F-A-R-A violations, false statements, and 7 counts of failure to file foreign money reports. So this is all about the foreign accounts.
Trump. I mean, unless I'm going to see something else, this all predates Donald Trump. This is something that could be investigated and prosecuted by any U.S. Attorney's Office. And the fact that they didn't discover this evidence before he became a part of the Trump campaign is frankly just revealing of the Justice Department. I mean, why did they discover this before? Why are they just discovering it now? So, look, I'm not saying this is good for Trump. It's not good for Trump. It's not good for Trump to have a former campaign manager and his deputy be indicted. That's not good. Anyone who tells you that's good, but it also isn't Russian collusion. On the surface, to people who don't follow this and who don't understand what the federal criminal law is all about, they will say, oh, Donald Trump's campaign manager was indicted. It must be Donald Trump. No, that's not how it works. But the media and their sloppy reporting and their jumping the gun to say that this amounts or could amount to collusion between Russia and Trump because he was the campaign chairman? What he's been representing these foreign interests for 3+ decades, since the late 70s, longer than that. It was Black, Manafort, Stone, and Atwater. That was the name of the firm originally. They were young guns running around Washington that were representing a lot of different candidates. And then Manafort broke off, and Manafort did his own firm. And the idea that this should occupy the time and the energy of this administration in any way, given what I know now, it's even more ridiculous. Paul Manafort is going to have to answer these questions. He's going to have to defend himself against these charges. I have no idea where that's going to go. But it is really quite something for the American media. Andrea Mitchell was huffing and puffing about this on MSNBC this morning before she had even read an indictment. For the media to try to tag Trump with this is appalling.
But my friends, here's why they're doing it. They're figuring that you're stupid. They're figuring that you're a moron. They're figuring that if you hear Manafort indicted Donald Trump, that you will make that association yourself because you're not that bright and you're part of the unwashed masses, and what the hell do you know or matter anyway? That's how the Democrats think. That's how liberals think. You're stupid, so you'll simply believe what they tell you. And if you don't believe what they tell you, it can only be because you're racist. Don't fall for it. It's BS. Let's take a break and we'll come back, my friends. By the way, the show is called Riell Truth for a reason. We'll be right back.
From company power, independence, to back up compositional term. Our expertise focuses on dependable power, but we have extensive experience with utility and business and development. The capabilities of emergency lighting all the way to commercial scale power. Great Plains Power is a full service company. We service everything we sell. We provide and design turnkey packages, custom design systems, and parts for food yourself. With more than 20 years of specialized experience at Northern Total, let us know what your power concerns will hold on. Reach us by phone or the internet. Call 303-239-9963. That's 303-239-9963. Or go to GreatPlainsSolar.com. Your local DuPont Pioneer team doesn't take the click you from the word go lightly, especially when it comes to origin. Just ask your fellow producers, folks like it.
We have an awesome support team from Pioneer. I think that they're probably one of the reasons why we are successful.
And Bruce Cullen. They'll come out anytime you want to call them and help us. You don't get that from all your other seed dealers. But these guys are here all season long. As well as Ken Phelps. Just know that the research that Pioneer has done, it really it shows, and I found really do well with it. Or Billy Rucker.
All in all, seem like Pioneer is always in the top. I believe green, and I believe green.
Want a team that's with you from the word go? That's DuPont Pioneer. Ask them about leveraging the Pilot Zone resource to produce the highest quality forages for your operation. Pioneer, with you from the word go.
My friends, the American way of life is under attack. That's not news. Everybody knows it. The president is under attack. That's also not a secret. But what a lot of people don't know, and this is a potential tragedy on a mass scale, is that masculinity, boys and young men, are under attack in America. Boys aren't allowed to just be boys anymore. It's a terrible problem, one that I've mentioned on this show in the past. Here's a video. I'll put it up on my Facebook page, Riell Truth Radio. The headline, Boyhood Under Attack, Why Boys Just Can't Be Boys Anymore. It's vital listening to this. Here we go.
Right now, here in America,
Bill
a war
Whittle.
is being waged on men. Men have been and are being discriminated against by society and the government. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle. Thanks for joining us for this PG special.
And you have different rounds. There's capture the flag, there's kill the leader. There are all these great things you can do, all these great little games they have. And they've got judges to make sure that if you get shot, that you're out for that round. And I made sure that my 9-year-old and I were on different teams because the dads and moms were invited to play. And of course, the moms sat in the stands and the dads all rushed onto the field. And we had more fun just killing the heck out of each other. And this urge to suppress this male bonding that is so critical. You know, there hasn't been a girl born on my dad's side of the family since 1896. There have been many others, but we've all been guys. So I'm not sure I understand that side of it. But there is this urge, and Helen mentioned the progressive left, and I think that's the part of it. That boys who don't typically want to conform, they just want to shoot the heck out of each other and have a great time doing it. It doesn't fit in, but I'll tell you what, they'll take the Nerf gun when they pry it out of my cold dead hand.
You know, so much of this is the feminist movement trying to, thinking that they can get rid of violence by getting rid of masculinity, and all they really do is get rid of people who can defend them. people against rotten, vicious brutes. Steve, this situation gets worse when we get an education. Girls are taking home almost twice the academic honors of boys, and when we were kids, it was almost the exact opposite way around. Girls just kind of sat in the corner, didn't say much. Now, it's obviously great that we can get higher educational standards out of women, but for boys to have fallen this severely, do you find that that's a question of the schools basically punishing young boys in school for being boys and thinking like boys and having those kind of male qualities?
I don't know if punishing is the right word, because I think it's a lack of discipline being enforced there. I mean, when we were young, because boys are basically chimps who have developed speech, okay, barely. They're out of, I mean, I was a bookish nerd, and I was still lighting things on fire and breaking bones when I was a little boy, okay? But I also went to school with nuns, real nuns. There's a lot of femininity going on there. Real nuns who would force my attention to be focused on something and expected things from me, and there were consequences if I didn't perform well in school. Now, boys are being punished for being boys, but they're not being punished for being late, for not being in school, for getting bad grades, for doing it. In fact, the opposite happens. You need to coddle them. You need to make everybody feel good about being different or not. And that, I think, is the real problem here, is that the way education has evolved is that we're not forcing, the expectations really aren't there. We have this participation trophy mentality where we're more concerned about the people's feelings than we are about their achievements.
If I could just write in here, Stephen, I just want to say you're correct about one part of it. That is, yes, there is no discipline in the schools, but what you're missing out on is that there are punishments to boys for the mere fact that they are boys, and teachers are, there's research that shows teachers give bad grades to boys. Teachers don't like what boys do, and most of those are female. And so when you add that in, the lack of respect that women in the schools, the teachers have for boys, the bad grades that they get, the assumption that a boy is a rapist, a pervert, even a young boy, when you add that into the mixture of not getting the discipline, that's where you see the problems really start. It's a mixture of lack of discipline and the fact that the boys are not treated, they're treated as defective girls to be brought under control. So it's not just that you've got a bunch of chimps who need help. You've got boys who need moral development and an understanding of how to behave in the world. And at the same time, they're being treated in a way that says to them, you are a bad person. And what you do when people tell you you're a criminal, you act like one. And that's what a lot of boys are doing.
I think in one of the segments we're going to be doing coming up where we talk about the dumbing down of the American dad, we'll talk about the lack of role models, and that's leading to certainly some behavioral problems on the part of boys. But Scotty, let me ask you a question. Schools seem to be targeting the strength of girls and not boys. Do you think it's because this whole giant left-wing social engineering thing is kind of what Helen was getting at a little bit, I think. You know, boys are naturally rebellious. They're quick and they're stronger, and they run around, and they don't generally sit quietly. And do you kind of get the sense that all of this is sort of that they're just tougher to social engineer than the little girls are?
You know, I'm not sure how much of this is intentional and how much of it is simply, you know, sort of the book of Genesis, creatures produce things after their own kind. And so a cadre of female school teachers produce things after their own kind. If you behave like them, if you learn like them, if you're primarily an auditory learner, if you like to sit still for long periods of time, if you like to have long conversations about things in quiet tones, you'll do very well. If you're a kinesthetic learner and you like to be moving all over the place, you're going to really struggle with the Austrian model of sit down, shut up, line up, and, just do what you're told. And I tell parents a lot of times, and some of them get upset with me about this, when they tell me, oh, well, my son has ADD. And I say, well, when I was a boy, we had that too, and it was spelled B-O-Y. I was a school bus driver. I was a Christian camp director, and right now I teach 3rd and 4th grade boys in a Sunday school class. Not a week goes by where somebody doesn't get tackled to the floor in my Sunday school class. And this week, a kid got a big bloody gash on his leg, and nobody was even touching him. And the great thing was, nobody got upset. We just said, hey, go to the bathroom, wash up, get a bandage, get back here.
You've just coined one of those great terms for a group of people like a pride of lion or a murder of crows. It's a cadre of feminist teachers. That's the word we're going to use from now on. It's a cadre of feminism teachers. Maybe to close this thing up, guys, we could just have a general discussion about what we need to do to restore masculinity and boyhood. And maybe I'll just chip off and lead with this. I don't think you have to do anything to restore masculinity. I think you just have to get out of the way of taking it away. I mean, it's really that simple. I don't think anything has to be done to little boys to teach them how to be little boys or to teach them how to grow up to be men. You just have to stop teaching them how to be something else. So much of this seems to be an attack on the idea of limiting the strength and speed of males to get them to conform to standards that the progressive left wants. And I think if you just get that nonsense out of the way, boys will just wander off and be boys. They'll ride bikes and climb trees and stuff. I think we have a safety culture that's a real problem with that too. Steve, don't you think this idea that, you got to wear a hockey helmet in the shower, or else, God knows what could happen to you? Do you think that's part of this thing that these?
I think that's it. What we've done to youth sports is a big part of it too. And I actually wrote a book about this, about what progressives have done to academia and have done to elementary education, and it was like partly humorous but mostly serious too. And one of the things I talk about is what we've done to youth sports, which is like, okay, here's what you need to do. You need to practice, you need to work hard, and then you need to win. And we've taken the you need to win out now, and we've taken that away from it. So that's the feminization of sports, I think, too. And I think we need to dial back the entire progressive overrunning of youth sports education, and I think it's a daunting task, but I think that's the only way to reel any of this in.
We remember it was a couple of years ago where that school privately raised some money for a boys' baseball stadium, and they put in these lovely chairs, and then it turned out that the girls' softball team didn't have as nice chairs, so they simply tore out the chairs that had been raised by private money. Remember that story was making the rounds? You got to get everything level and equal. Steve Green, what about you? Your boys, I'm sure, not suffering. You're probably drinking martinis. You're not even 6 yet. But aside from a heavy program of alcohol intoxication, what would you do you think, to get rid of some of this problem of the war on boys?
Mostly, I kick them outside in almost any weather and tell them to go have fun. And of course, we have a collection of jars of various sizes filled with spiders and worms, which is just awesome. But Scott and Helen really hit on something that troubles me that I didn't notice until just now, really. My three best teachers, and I remember them all very vividly. There was Dr. John Johnson at St. Louis Penn Day, who was not actually one of my teachers. He was the headmaster there, but always worked with me when I was having a lot of troubles as a student. Scott Spangler at Missouri Military Academy, who taught journalism, and David Cantwell at University of Missouri, who taught me more about writing than anybody else ever before, basically by getting out of my way, as you just said. These three were all men, and I think they related to me, and I related to them because we had that one very basic thing in common. So I was willing to listen to them, they were willing to take the time with me, and they understood me on that basis. My older son is just finishing 3rd grade. My younger son is finishing up 2 or 3 years of preschool now, getting ready to go to kindergarten in the fall. Not one of them has ever had a single male teacher, and I haven't seen a single male teacher at either one of their schools.
Wow, that's kind of scary. Scott, what about what Steve just said? I thought he just hit something really hit the head on the nail. Go outside and have fun. Go outside and have fun. I mean, that's really what my boyhood was all about, was going outside and having fun. Do you think the idea that maybe if everybody sits around and looks down at a tablet, that the natural sort of young boy activity is somehow just being sort of stolen from them and ends up going into sort of maladaptive kind of, misbehavior?
I think in many ways, boys, and it's not just boys, but boys especially, were created for adventure. And, my grandmother, I can remember distinctly her coming into the living room, slapping the button on the Zenith and saying to the 4 of us boys, get outside and blow the stink off you. We'd go out into the woods, we'd go to the creek, we'd go to ponds, we would disappear for hours, we would go fishing, we'd catch snakes and eels and salamanders, we'd climb trees, we'd set things on fire, we'd shoot guns, and then we'd come back, and usually we were late for the mealtime. That teaches you to become self-reliant. It teaches you to become dependent upon your brothers, and it teaches you to be a leader. And I think we are shackling young boys these days. And
my friends, we absolutely are, and instead we should be shackling actors in Hollywood and other Hollywood liberals like, what's his name, Kevin Spacey. He should be shackled. And other people who go after young boys should be shackled. But we should not be shackling young boys. And what he said about all the teachers at his kids' schools being women is absolutely astounding. Item from the Hill. NFL continued to see sporadic protests during the national anthem on Sunday, a month after President Trump ignited a firestorm by suggesting players who kneel during the anthem should be fired. 6 players visibly protested at the game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles, the Associated Press reports, unquote. My friends, fire them. Roger Goodell?
Hey, folks, have you ever thought about having your own backyard chickens? Now you have a source for certified organic, no GMO, no soy chicken. Happy Hens.biz can even deliver protect the people secure in their persons, houses, neighbors, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and to warrant shall be issued upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the person or thing to be seen. American Window Cleaning Incorporated Breakdown reminds parents, keep an eye on your child while shopping. Children tend to severely become lost. This poses an opportunity for would-be abductors. Make every effort to keep track of your movement at all times. If you have information regarding a lost child, call local authorities at once. This message is from American Window Cleaning Incorporated Breakdown. For residential or commercial window cleaning, call 303-263-4228. His own is not repeated. But signification is making the right over the top to those even in name who report not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 10 through 13.
My friends, one of these strong, solid voices of truth out there, and there are a good number of them. I'm not the only one. Thank you anyway. Judge Jeanine Pirro on Fox News. Here she is from, let's see, this is 2 days ago. Judge Jeanine.
Statement. It's time, folks. It's time to shut it down, turn the tables, and lock her up. That's what I said. I actually said it. Lock her up. The house of cards upon which the Obamas and the Clintons built the Trump-Russia connection collapsed yesterday when it was disclosed that the Clinton campaign and the DNC paid $12 million for a dossier to connect Donald Trump to Russia. To circumvent federal election laws, the campaign paid a law firm, who then paid a research firm, who then paid a former British spy to get dirt on Donald Trump from Kremlin-connected Russians. So why is this important? Now, the FBI had previously worked with this Christopher Steele, who was a British spy, and under Director James Comey, they paid him an additional $50,000 to continue with the research. Now, this dossier was used not only to smear the president, it was used to create a special counsel. It was the basis for congressional hearings, the reason for wall-to-wall anti-President Trump coverage. But in addition to that, the dossier was used as a predicate for further investigation, wiretaps, unmasking, and FISA warrants. And if it was, then whatever was developed as a result is classic fruit of the poisonous tree, illegal and unusable. Folks, this has been a charade, a wag the dog, where you make up a crime, you accuse the other side of the crime, you call on your friends to prosecute the crime, as your friends collect the cash involved in the very deal-making that is the essence of the crime itself. Now, last week, I told you, in 2010, the Obama administration approved the sale of 1/5 of our uranium to Russia. As early as 2009, the FBI and the Department of Justice were investigating Russian extortion and bribery efforts to access our uranium. And yet the Obama administration, through its Committee for Foreign Investment, CFIUS, approves the sale. On that committee, Hillary Clinton, whose husband got $500,000. Hillary Clinton's foundation got $150 million. Eric Holder, whose Justice Department quietly disposed of that international racketeer. Genesis.
All right, my friends, hang on 1 second. We got a brief interruption, and we're going to go right back to this video right now. Here we go.
Genesis, along with 7 other Obama appointees, virtually every one of them had connections to the Clinton Foundation. And when the Republican congressman questioned why would the United States be selling uranium or approving the sale that is used to create nuclear weapons to our enemy, the Republican congressmen were shut down, basically saying, don't worry about it. Starting Monday, this has to happen. Special counsel and former FBI Director Robert Mueller must be fired immediately. His role as head of the FBI during the uranium deal and the Russian extortion case. His friendship with Jim Comey demand his firing. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein must be fired immediately. His appointment of his pal, Bob Mueller, who he knew was head of the FBI at the time of the uranium deal, as well as the underlying case itself, must go while he, Rod Rosenstein, oversaw the prosecution of the underlying extortion case. And Rosenstein's sanctimonious recommendation that Jeff Sessions recuse himself are grounds enough for him to go. The special counsel's office must be shut down. This is nothing more than a cabal of individuals relying on false evidence to impeach Donald Trump. If there are any charges voted by a grand jury, which we hear there are, that will be disclosed on Monday, the Department of Justice can take over. Jeff Sessions must appoint someone to investigate the uranium deal, the sale of uranium to Russia, who was assisting at that time Iran in Iran's nuclear development, has put our national security in jeopardy. A 2010 case. This is long before Donald Trump ever got into the presidential race. And if he doesn't do it, it's time for Sessions to go. I've heard enough of this. I'm not going after the emails. I'm not going after Lois Lerner. I'm not going after Loretta Lynch. And I don't care how many of his swamp pals walk out. Enough of this one hand washes the other establishment nonsense. And Jim Comey, he needs to be the target of a federal criminal investigation for his role in the Hillary Clinton email scandal. Writing an exoneration before witnesses were questioned, stepping out of his lane to announce a decision over which he had absolutely no jurisdiction.
All right, my friends, we're going to stop there because I want to get some news in. But absolutely, if people won't cooperate with enforcing the law and bringing guilty parties to trial, then they need to go. Whether it's Comey, Rosenstein, or yes, Jeff Sessions, they need to go. Enough is enough. Item from the Hollywood Reporter. It's not outlandish to entertain a previously unthinkable prospect. Might ESPN elect to go without rights to NFL games? In a span of less than 5 years, industry giant ESPN has seen its narrative transform from that of a mighty colossus into the hard luck tale of a ragtag warrior. As it struggles to regain heretofore heroic heights, levels of growth that are probably no longer attainable, ESPN has had to endure a slew of significant workforce layoffs, with more reportedly on the way, and a once doting Wall Street that has turned a skeptically cold shoulder. Astonishing increases in earnings, previously viewed as fait accompli, now seem like fantasies from another world, thanks to the now familiar combo of cord-cutting and burgeoning rights fees. Unquote. My friends, it's simpler than that. ESPN has turned political and hard left, and Americans, especially ESPN viewers, don't want it. Item from the Daily Mail. Don't blink. Thousands of fans stripped down the bare skin at the Sydney, Australia Tattoo Festival to have all parts of their bodies adorned, even their eyeballs. More than 10,000 people attended Rites of Passage Tattoo Festival in Sydney, running Friday to Sunday. They got new ink from 250 international tattoo artists and watched 14 competitions. Event held for the first time in Sydney at the Royal Hall of Industry after 5 years in Melbourne. Thousands of inked-up body fans descended on Sydney for the Rites of Passage Festival. More than 250 tattoo artists around the world. My friends, I'm going to come back to this item because it gets a hell of a lot weirder when you get into it. We'll be back with more Real Truth.
Until our government is out of control, it's no longer our servant, it's become our master. Listen to me. Liberty Forum with the Freedom Rider will answer the question, what can we do? Our freedom and liberty is at stake. In spite of that, those who have given everything for this country would expect no less. Tune into the new Liberty Forum radio show Fridays at 9 a.m. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debt, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10. The Patriot Trading Group is a different kind of gold and silver company. Cleaning up the industry for 21 years. Are you tired of the high-pressure sales tactics, the constant phone calls? Are you done with the bait and switch? You just want to be treated fairly with honesty and respect? That's exactly what you get when you call 800-951-0592. You got my word on. I'm Joe Kigwood, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group. Check us out online at allamericangold.com. The American Field Network is not funded or supported by special interest groups or government programs. The American Field Network is not sponsored by advertisers demanding content or programming control. The American Field Network is solely funded by you. Liberty Mutual Service. Please help keep the American Field Network on the air by purchasing one of our sponsors' funding products or by calling 1-800
Before the top
5 to make a donation. The American Field Network needs part of.
All right, guys, I'm going to get you even more truth. You thought for the last 45 minutes of the show have been packed with truth. You're absolutely right. I do that every day. Here's more truth. Kellyanne Conway talking to the guys on Fox earlier this morning. Go.
Conway joins us right now. She's on the North Lawn.
Secretary of State. They were trying to get Janet Vantage.
He says the president.
Speaking of Claire McCaskill, she's indicative of a trend that nobody's really talking about, is that Trump is forcing politicians in his own party and in the Democrats, forcing them to go back to representing the voters. He's forcing politicians to be representatives, real representatives, forcing them to be more honest, less self-serving. He's forcing them to be better elected officials. I have no numbers to share with you about that, but it's obvious he has slapped the taste out of so many politicians' mouths. They're afraid to go up against him. They're afraid to continue politics as usual. They are now actually beginning to some of them, represent the interests of their voters. Amazing! I haven't seen anyone in the press talk about this, but Claire McCaskill, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, they're starting to come around. They're starting to seem like they're genuine representatives of the people, and you can thank Donald Trump for that. You can thank Donald Trump. Before him, whoever heard the phrase fake news? Some contributions don't appear in the scorecard. We'll take a break and we'll wrap it up, my friends. Riell Truth marches on.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tom Cook, Congress Creator. Well, it had to happen. The Commonwealth legalized marijuana. Most people don't agree very much. Also, the people legalized on January the 1st, 2014. The state takes over our new location at 4555 Gifford Street, 1.5 blocks south of I-7. There are 83,000 cars a day passing in front of our new location. we and other folks would want to agree with choose abortion. Former abortion doctor Nathan said people do not understand that there are thousands of serious physical complications of abortion every year at this time. Abortion crises, anxiety, police service, suicide, violent behavior, sterility, increased risk of miscarriage, and other complications of pregnancy. International Journal of Epidemiology reported abortion increased breast cancer risk by 9%. Every helpless baby has the right to life, too. This life getting messages brought to you by TLR Associates of Moore, providing a child well fed for your own business. I hope so. Call TLR Associates of Moore, 303-921-3310. TLR Medallion brand and special protection serves the Boulder and Northern Colorado area.
Item from the Daily Star. Some 1,300 cases of the pneumonic plague, which is transmitted by air, have now been confirmed. An estimated 50 million lives were lost as a result of the Black Death epidemic of the 1300s, and now the deadly disease has spread into more African countries after taking root in Madagascar. Countries affected include South Africa, Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, Comoros, the Seychelles, Mauritius, and Reunion. Unquote. So, my friends, by all means, let's start bringing entire boatloads of people from those countries here so we can also have the Black Plague. Item from the Washington Examiner. Any tax cut for middle-income earners will also provide a benefit for those further up the income scale, including the top 20% who pay 95% of all income taxes, according to the director of the Office of Management and Budget. In explaining the complicated tax system the administration and congressional Republicans are trying to simplify, Mick Mulvaney played the role of professor at Georgetown University Wednesday night and dished the eye-popping numbers and impact of a middle-class tax cut. Unquote. My friends, there are people out there who are profoundly stupid enough to be shocked and amazed that wealthy people are going to have their taxes cut, even though the top 20% of earners pay 95% of our taxes. Well, who would get their taxes cut except people who pay the taxes? Duh. Item from KPIX5 in Santa Clara, California. Security at California's Great America was beefed up Sunday evening, the night after as many as 100 teens got into fights and allegedly stole cell phones at the amusement park's haunted house attraction. Unquote. Gee, you know, they're so cool and hip and sophisticated in California. When are they seceding? Item from the College Fix. A year and a half after a petition circulated calling for Yale to, quote, decolonize the English department, the first students are enrolled in a new course created by the department to increase the breadth of the curriculum and combat claims of departmental racism. What's more, new requirements are in place to ensure a more, quote, diversified slate of courses. Previous requirements for the major included 2 courses in major English poets, including Chaucer, Shakespeare, Donne, Milton, and Eliot, among others, but that 2-course series petitioners had deemed actively harmful due to its focus on white male poets. The series is no longer a graduation requirement for Yale's English majors, unquote. My friends, just another step in the dumbing down of America. Now it's Yale, because Chaucer, Shakespeare, Donne, Milton, and Eliot owned slaves in America. I'm sorry, what's that? None of them lived in America, and what's that? None of them owned slaves? Shut up, you're a racist. Item from the Independent. The Oedipus complex might not be so far-fetched after all, as a new study reveals that we are attracted to people who look like our parents. Freud would have been delighted with the findings conducted by scientists at Glasgow University, which concluded that heterosexual men and gay women look for women with the same eye color as their mothers. Similarly, they found that heterosexual women and gay men were attracted to men whose eyes were the same color as their father. Unquote. My friends, I have no idea what any of that means. I have no intention of commenting on it. Let me just say this. As plenty enough to worry about in this world and in this country without worrying why we're attracted to the people to whom we're attracted. I'm not even sure why I read that item today, except hosts got to have fun too, right? I'll be back tomorrow with more Real Truth. That much I promise. Hasta luego.